What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are going to learn how to ride a motorcycle, just going over the basics for the people who have never been on one of these before. If you can ride a bicycle, you're going to be able to ride a motorcycle, of course, after watching today's video. So I'm using my 2007 Yamaha R6 to be the demonstrator. Pretty much any modern day motorcycle is going to be pretty similar to this, just a little bit different on how you're actually sitting on it. So we're going to go over the basics of this machine, how everything works together, and then get it out and ride it to show how to actually drive this out on the main roads. So with that said, let's start off with the right side of this machine. So on the right side, we have your foot peg for your right foot and your foot brake. This is going to be operated with the toe portion of your foot. Very simple contained unit with the hydraulic line going back to the rear brake. Super simple. If we make our way up to the right side of the handlebar, we have your front brake. Just like you would expect, you pull that to engage it. Has its same hydraulic fluid, the fluid reservoir is here, and it goes to the disc brakes up front. And then, if we turn the wheel a little bit, on this left side of the handlebar, we have your clutch lever up here. This is going to be a very important part about riding most modern motorcycles. This right here is going to engage and disengage your clutch, which, if you know anything about manual transmissions or motorcycles or dirt bikes, that basically makes the transmission and the engine connect. When you squeeze this right here, it opens up the clutch discs and disconnects, and then when you slowly let it out, the clutches connect and then your engine can drive the rear wheel. On top of this, we have your high beam switch on this left. You'll flash it up to do the high beam, and then down is your normal one. We have a turn signal on this left side. Most bikes are all going to be on one side. We do have your horn, and then right in the center we have your key. So unlike a car, motorcycles for the most part, you just turn them to on, and to start them up, you then have to use your ignition switch. So you always turn your fuel on, make sure that's on, and it fires right up, and then to shut it off, you can either turn the key or turn the kill switch. On this left side now is your shifter right here. This is going to be operated with your left foot. This is basically how you change all of your gears. All the way down is going to be your first gear, and then you're going to go up all the way to sixth gear on this bike, and then neutral is always in between first and second gear. It's a little tricky sometimes getting in there. You basically push it all the way down for first, and then slightly lift it up. You'll feel a little bump to it, and that gets you into neutral. So with the basics of how this motorcycle works out of the way, let's get on the bike and start riding it. A lot of people say you can only get on the bike from this left side. Honestly, depending on your height and your skill level, you can get on a motorcycle either way. It's just a little bit taller on this side to get on the bike from the opposite side of the kickstand. So once you're on the bike, doesn't matter which side, you're going to put your kickstand all the way up. This bike and a lot of other ones, if you're running the engine and you're in gear, if your kickstand goes down, it actually kills the engine. So that's kind of an emergency cutoff that a lot of bikes have wired into them. So make sure your kickstand is up. And like we just saw, we're going to turn the ignition on. The fuel is on as well. We're going to fire it up. Alright guys, so now let's translate that to actually riding the motorcycle. So getting on the bike, getting my kickstand up in order, ignition is on. Turn your fuel system on. I always give that an extra second or two. And you can see how we're not in neutral right now, and I cannot operate the bike. So what I want to do is make sure we're in first gear, pull it up halfway. We're now into neutral. Now I can freely roll the bike. So now you want to start it up. Engines fires up. So from here, of course, always check your surroundings. Make sure everything is nice and safe. And of course, if you're learning, maybe your neighborhood or a parking lot is a good way to go. Pull in the clutch all the way down into first gear. Now when you're first starting, you're going to notice it's actually going to take me like 30 or 40 feet to let out the clutch all the way to start operating the bike. You don't want to just dump the clutch. If you dump the clutch, you'll stall it just like that. You don't want to do that. So if you do stall the bike, just pull in the clutch, put it back into neutral, and we'll fire it right back up. And then from here, we will take it again. So clutch in, into first gear, and as you're going to see, I'm slowly letting out the clutch, still not off of the clutch. Now we're off the clutch. Give it some gas, clutch in and shift, and every time you shift, you want to give it just a little bit of gas. Might be hard to see the tachometer, but I pull in the clutch, shift it, give it just a hair of gas as you let off that clutch once again. If you've ever driven a manual transmission car, you're going to really pick this up super quick. Or if you grew up riding dirt bikes, it's obviously the exact same thing. As you're riding, it's very important just to keep your body centered. Your weight balance and the transfer of weight as you go back and forth is the big way of how you're going to steer this bike. If we come to a slower turn now, You know, slower, tighter turns aren't the easiest on bikes like this, but of course just keep your eyes on the road ahead of you. So then from here I'm going to come to a stop. We're in gear, I have the clutch held in, and then to start up once again you slowly let off the clutch. And now that I'm going uphill a little bit, I'm going to need to give it some gas. So if you watch the tachometer, you don't need to give it crazy amount of gas. So as I start letting off the clutch a little bit, you can see the bike moving. That's when you want to give it just a little bit of gas. So clutch out slightly, holding it around 2,000 RPM, still letting the clutch out, and now the clutch is completely off my hand. So driving, clutch in and shift, giving it a little bit of gas as I continue to accelerate. That's kind of the basics of how you drive it. And then as I am making a turn, you're really using your body weight as you take a turn. You can see the rider coming towards me doing the same thing, but just lean with your body, keep your eyes on the road ahead of you, and you'll do a nice safe turn, accelerating a little bit more for better speed. That's kind of the basics and fundamentals on how to ride a motorcycle. You know, like I said, if you can ride a bicycle, you're going to pick this up super quick. The biggest thing you're going to need to learn how to do is operating that clutch. There's not really too many automatic transmission motorcycles out there, so you're not really going to find that. So we'll do that one last time now. We'll come to a standstill. We are in first gear, and now that we're going downhill, that's going to be your easiest way to learn. So I'm actually coasting right now. That's a good way to learn. As I slowly let out the clutch, we're kind of matching the speed, and now I can give it a little bit of gas. So I don't recommend, if you do have a slight incline or decline, roll it downhill first, just to kind of get it working and get your shifting down, and then do flat ground, and then once you're ready, do uphill. That way you'll kind of learn how to do it 100% relying on the bike itself. And then last but not least, when you come to a stop, we'll go ahead and put the bike into neutral again. You can shut it off either by doing the kill switch or the ignition switch. And then always make sure your kickstand is all the way down, because there are many times you might forget that and drop the bike. And then depending on how your bike works, you can use the key right here and lock your handlebars. That way nobody can steal it. Obviously these are pretty easy to steal, but one more step to make that not happen. So there's a quick tutorial on how to ride a motorcycle for the beginner. Like I said in the video, I think one of the biggest things you really need to learn how to do is the clutch and shifter. Just be easy with it, you know, make slow movements as you let that clutch out, and very light on the gas. You don't need to rip the throttle and dump the clutch. That's just a recipe for disaster. Keep your balance nice and centered, and just take it slow. You know, you don't need to be a pro racer day one. Just take it slow, and you will build and build as time goes on and become a really good rider. If you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, stay tuned for plenty more content to come. We'll see you guys next video.